Behind the scenes of LL Cool J's sitcom breakthrough lurked surprising drama, bizarre casting decisions, and production chaos that would make even the most seasoned TV viewers' jaw drop. From hostile guest star encounters and network-hopping shenanigans to obsessive stalker characters and a rapper who allegedly threatened to assault RuPaul, In the House packed more real-life drama than its fictional storylines ever could. Fact 1. Hat Obsession Mystery. Throughout the entire run of In the House, which aired from 1995 to 1999, LL Cool J's character Marion Hill was almost never seen without something covering his head. Whether he was having dinner with his roommates, working at his sports clinic, or even lying in bed fast asleep, Marion always had a hat, cap, or at minimum, a stocking cap pulled over his hair. This wasn't just a casual wardrobe choice that happened occasionally. It was a consistent pattern that viewers began to notice as the show progressed through its 5 seasons and 76 episodes. The hat obsession became so noticeable that fans started commenting on it, with many wondering if there was a specific reason behind this unusual costume decision. Some viewers speculated that perhaps LL Cool J had a contract requirement about his appearance, while others thought it might be related to his music career image or personal preference. The mystery deepened when observant fans noticed that even during intimate bedroom scenes where Marion was supposedly sleeping, he would still be wearing a stocking cap or some form of head covering, which struck many as particularly odd since most people don't sleep with hats on. What makes this fact even more intriguing is that neither LL Cool J nor the show's production team ever provided an official explanation for this consistent wardrobe choice. The show's creators, writers, and costume designers never addressed it in interviews or behind-the-scenes content. LL Cool J himself, despite doing numerous interviews about the show during its run and in the years since, has never been directly asked about or volunteered information regarding why Marion Hill was always wearing some form of headwear. This has left the hat mystery as one of the show's most enduring and unexplained quirks, making it a perfect example of how sometimes the most obvious things on screen can hide the biggest mysteries. Fact 2. Alfonso Ribeiro's Carlton confusion. Alfonso Ribeiro created one of television's most confusing casting situations when he appeared on In the House as 2 different characters who were essentially the same person. During the show's 2nd season, Ribeiro guest starred in an episode called Dog Catchers as his famous character Carlton Banks from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, complete with his preppy personality and signature dance moves. This crossover appearance made perfect sense since both shows were produced by the same team, including executive producers Winifred Hervey, David Salzman, and Quincy Jones, and it gave fans a fun opportunity to see Carlton interact with LL Cool J's character, Marion Hill. However, things got weird when In the House moved from NBC to UPN and underwent a major cast shakeup for its 3rd season. The producers decided to bring Ribeiro back, but this time as a completely new character named Dr. Maxwell Stanton, who worked at Marion's sports rehabilitation clinic. The problem was that Dr. Stanton had almost identical personality traits to Carlton Banks, including the same uptight, preppy mannerisms, similar speech patterns, and an equally pompous attitude that made him the target of jokes from other characters. This created a bizarre situation where viewers were watching the same actor play what was essentially the same character in the same fictional universe, just with a different name and job title. The show never acknowledged this oddity or explained how Carlton Banks and Dr. Maxwell Stanton could both exist as separate people when they were clearly the same person with different backgrounds. Making matters even more confusing, James Avery and Daphne Maxwell Reid, who played Carlton's parents on Fresh Prince, later appeared on In the House as Dr. Stanton's parents, playing essentially the same parental roles they had with Carlton. This meant that not only did Ribeiro play 2 identical characters, but his fictional parents were also the same people in both shows, creating a television continuity nightmare that was never addressed by the writers. Fact 3. The RuPaul hostility incident. RuPaul's guest appearance on In the House became one of the show's most controversial behind-the-scenes incidents when the drag superstar later revealed that working with LL Cool J was an extremely unpleasant experience. According to RuPaul, LL Cool J was combative and cold toward him throughout the filming process, creating a hostile work environment that made the production difficult and uncomfortable. The situation allegedly escalated to the point where LL Cool J even threatened to physically assault RuPaul, turning what should have been a routine guest appearance into a tense and frightening experience for the visiting performer. The episode in question was titled Boys, Two Men, Two Women, and aired during the show's first season in December of 1995. In the storyline, RuPaul played Kevin, an old friend of Marion Hill, who visits and reveals that he has started a new career as a drag performer at nightclubs. The episode was actually quite progressive for its time, showing Marion initially struggling with his friend's career choice, but eventually learning to accept and support Kevin's decision to perform in drag, even attending one of his shows. By the end of the episode, what makes this behind-the-scenes hostility so ironic is that the episode's entire message was about tolerance, acceptance, and overcoming prejudice toward people who don't conform to traditional gender roles. While Marion's character arc showed him growing from confusion and discomfort to understanding and support, it appears that LL Cool J himself learned nothing from the story his own show was trying to tell. The contrast between the positive, accepting message being portrayed on screen and the alleged hostility happening behind the cameras created a deeply hypocritical situation that highlighted the difference between performing tolerance and actually practicing it in real life. Fact 4. Triple Network Journey. In the House holds the unusual distinction of being one of the few television shows to air across 3 different platforms during its original run, creating a confusing broadcast history that many viewers still don't fully understand. The show began its life on NBC in April of 1995, where it aired for its first 2 seasons until May of 1996, when the network canceled it due to disappointing ratings that failed to meet their expectations for a prime-time sitcom. However, the show's story didn't end there, as UPN quickly swooped in to rescue the series from cancellation, picking it up for what would become seasons 3 and 4. UPN, which was a relatively new network at the time, was eager to build its programming lineup and saw potential in the LL Cool J vehicle despite its NBC struggles. The show aired on UPN from August of 1996 until April of 1998, undergoing significant changes including cast departures and storyline shifts to appeal to UPN's target audience. When UPN also decided to cancel the series in May of 1998, In the House still wasn't finished with its broadcasting odyssey. The show's 5th and final season aired in first-run syndication, meaning it was sold directly to individual television stations across the country, rather than airing on a specific network. This final season ran until August 11, 1999, bringing the total episode count to 76. The strangest part of this journey came when some episodes from that final syndicated season were later re-aired on NBC during an extremely unusual time slot. From August 3rd through August 11th, 1999, NBC showed these episodes at 1:30 in the morning, occupying the time slot that normally belonged to a show called Later for just 1 week. This meant that In the House had the rare experience of returning to its original network years after being canceled, albeit in the middle of the night when very few people were watching. Fact 5. Quincy Jones's persuasion power. Quincy Jones wielded his legendary influence in the entertainment industry to personally convince Debbie Allen to step back in front of the camera for In the House, after she had spent years focusing exclusively on behind-the-scenes work as a director and producer. By the early 1990s, Allen had established herself as a powerhouse behind the camera, having successfully revived A Different World as an executive producer and earned acclaim for her directing work on various television projects, which made her reluctant to return to acting full-time. Jones, who served as an executive producer on In the House through his production company, had been trying to persuade Allen to return to acting for approximately 4 years before she finally agreed to take on the role of Jackie Warren. During this extended courtship period, Jones repeatedly approached Allen with various projects, but she consistently turned him down because she felt the scripts didn't offer her the kind of substantial, meaningful role that would justify stepping away from her successful directing and producing career. The breakthrough came when Jones presented Allen with the script for In the House, written by Winifred Hervey, who had previously worked as an executive producer on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Jones made his pitch personal and direct, telling Allen, "You've got to get back out there," and emphasizing that it would be great to see you back in front of the camera. He specifically mentioned that there were many women and young people who responded positively to her work and presence, making the case that her return to acting would have a meaningful impact beyond just entertainment. Allen later admitted that it's hard to walk away from Quincy Jones, acknowledging the music and production legend's persuasive power and the respect she had for his judgment in entertainment matters. The role also appealed to Allen because it allowed her to work with LL Cool J, whom she had just finished directing in a movie called Out of Sync, and their positive working relationship helped seal her decision to join the cast. Fact 6. LL Cool J's work environment issues. Alfonso Ribeiro, who joined In the House as a regular cast member in Season 3, later revealed that working on the show was far from the positive experience that viewers might have expected, primarily due to what he described as LL Cool J creating a poor working environment on set. Ribeiro, who had just come off his successful run as Carlton Banks on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, was no stranger to professional television production and had clear expectations about how a show should operate, which made the problems on In the House particularly noticeable to him. According to Ribeiro's account, the main issue was that LL Cool J appeared to be more focused on his music career than on the television show that was supposed to be his primary professional commitment during filming periods. This divided attention created problems during production, as the star of the show wasn't giving the project the focus and energy that Ribeiro felt it deserved, which affected the overall quality of the work environment and potentially the show itself. The situation became serious enough that Ribeiro decided he didn't want to return for the show's 5th and final season, specifically because he didn't want to continue working with LL Cool J under those circumstances. This was a significant decision for Ribeiro, as leaving a steady television job is never taken lightly by actors, especially when the show was still producing episodes and providing regular income. However, the story took a positive turn when LL Cool J learned about Ribeiro's concerns and decision to leave, rather than letting the situation remain unresolved. LL Cool J approached Ribeiro and apologized for the problems he had created on set, acknowledging that his behavior had been unprofessional and had negatively affected his co-workers. This apology was apparently sincere and effective, as Ribeiro ultimately decided to return for the 5th season, and the two actors were able to maintain a friendly working relationship for the remainder of the show's run. Fact 7. Kim Wayans' stalker character evolution. Kim Wayans underwent one of television's most dramatic character transformations when her role as Tonya Harris evolved from a disturbing stalker figure into a beloved main character over the course of. When Tonya was first introduced during the show's early episodes, she appeared as Marion's physical trainer who was hired to help him recover from his football injuries and maintain his fitness, which seemed like a straightforward professional relationship that would provide some comedic situations. However, the character quickly took a dark turn when the writers revealed that Tonya had become completely obsessed with Marion after he showed her a simple act of kindness during one of their training sessions. This obsession manifested in increasingly inappropriate behavior as Tonya began stalking Marion around his house and constantly trying to seduce him, despite his clear lack of interest in pursuing any kind of romantic relationship with her. Her pursuit became so aggressive and persistent that it crossed the line from comedy into genuinely uncomfortable territory, making her what television writers call an abhorrent admirer character. The stalking behavior included Tonya showing up uninvited at Marion's home, making unwanted romantic advances, and generally refusing to respect his boundaries or accept his rejections of her attention. Some episodes even featured jokes about her appearance, including references to her finally shaving her mustache, which added an extra layer of mean-spirited humor to an already problematic character dynamic. The remarkable transformation occurred when the show moved from NBC to UPN and underwent major cast changes for Season 3. Rather than writing Tonya out of the show entirely, the producers decided to completely reimagine her character, toning down what they called her yandere tendencies, and transforming her from a stalker into Marion's business partner and close friend at his sports rehabilitation clinic. This evolution allowed Kim Wayans to showcase her comedic talents in a more positive light, while maintaining the character's energetic and somewhat eccentric personality without the disturbing obsessive elements. Fact 8. The mysterious Rodney character. One of the strangest additions to In the House came during Season 3, when a young character named Rodney, played by DJ Daniels, suddenly appeared on the show without any explanation of who he was, where he came from, or why he was hanging around Marion's house and sports clinic. The character seemed to materialize out of thin air during the major cast overhaul that occurred when the show moved from NBC to UPN, but unlike other new characters who had clear backstories and defined relationships to the main cast, Rodney remained a complete mystery throughout his brief time on the series. What made Rodney's presence particularly bizarre was that the show's writers never bothered to establish his basic identity or connection to the other characters, leaving viewers completely confused about his role in the story. He appeared to be a young teenager who had some knowledge about football and sports, but nobody on the show ever asked the obvious questions that any normal person would ask when a random kid starts showing up regularly, such as who his parents were, where he lived, or why he was spending so much time at Marion's clinic instead of being in school or at home. The character was described by the show's own production team as being unnecessary and bringing very little to the overall storylines or comedy of the series. Rodney didn't have any memorable catchphrases, significant relationships with other characters, or storylines that centered around him, making his presence feel more like an afterthought than an intentional creative decision. His scenes often felt awkward and forced, as if the writers themselves weren't sure what to do with him once they had added him to the cast. Perhaps recognizing that the character wasn't working, the producers quietly wrote Rodney out of the show by mid-season 3, having him disappear just as mysteriously as he had appeared. His departure was handled with the same lack of explanation as his arrival, with no farewell episode or storyline to explain where he went, making his entire time on the show feel like a strange fever dream that viewers might have imagined. Fact 9. Fresh Prince universe connections. In the House created one of television's most complex shared universe situations by featuring multiple crossover appearances with The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, establishing that both shows existed in the same fictional world despite airing on different networks at different times. This connection was made possible because both series shared the same production team, including executive producers Winifred Hervey, David Saltzman, and Quincy Jones, who saw an opportunity to create entertaining crossover moments that would benefit both shows and delight fans of each series. The crossover began during In the House Season 2 with an episode called Dog Catchers, where Alfonso Ribeiro and Tatiana Ali appeared as their beloved Fresh Prince characters Carlton and Ashley Banks, complete with their established personalities and family backgrounds from the original show. This wasn't just a cameo appearance but a full storyline that had Carlton and Ashley interacting with Marion Hill and the other In the House characters as if they were meeting for the first time, despite living in the same fictional Los Angeles area. The shared universe concept expanded even further when James Avery, who played the stern but loving Uncle Phil on Fresh Prince, appeared in the House as a mediator in an episode titled Love on a One-Way Street. Later, when Alfonso Ribeiro joined In the House as a regular cast member playing Dr. Maxwell Stanton, the show brought back both James Avery and Daphne Maxwell Reid in a Season 4 episode called My Pest Friend's Wedding, where they played Dr. Stanton's parents using the exact same parental dynamics they had established as Carlton's parents on Fresh Prince. Even Joseph Marcel, who played the witty butler Jeffrey on Fresh Prince, appeared in the same wedding episode as an officiating minister, completing the circle of shared characters. This created a television continuity situation where the same actors were essentially playing the same family relationships across two different shows, making In the House and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air one of the most thoroughly connected sitcom universes of the 1990s. Fact 10. Debbie Allen's creative departure. Debbie Allen's exit from In the House after Season 2 marked the beginning of the end for the show's original successful formula, as her departure stemmed from significant creative differences with the producers about the direction the series should take moving forward. Allen, who served not only as the female lead playing Jackie Warren but also as an executive producer during the show's first 2 seasons, had strong opinions about how the show should develop and what kinds of stories it should tell, which ultimately put her at odds with other decision-makers behind the scenes. The creative disagreements became serious enough that Allen decided she couldn't continue working on a project where her vision for the show's future was fundamentally different from what the other producers wanted to pursue. Her departure coincided with the show's move from NBC to UPN, which provided a natural opportunity for the producers to completely reimagine what In the House could become without having to work around Allen's creative input or character commitments. Once Allen left, the producers made the decision to retool the entire series to appeal to an older, more adult-oriented audience, rather than maintaining the family-friendly dynamic that had characterized the first 2 seasons. This major shift meant writing out not only Jackie Warren but also her son Austin, played by Jeffrey Wood, leaving only Tiffany to represent the original Warren family that had been central to the show's premise and appeal. The retooling completely transformed In the House from a show about the relationship between a divorced mother and her unusual landlord, with plenty of family-oriented storylines involving children and parenting, into a workplace comedy centered around Marion's sports rehabilitation clinic and his adult relationships with business partners and romantic interests. This fundamental change eliminated the odd couple dynamic between Marion and Jackie that had provided much of the show's humor and heart during its most successful period, replacing it with storylines that focused more on Marion's business ventures and adult friendships rather than the surrogate family relationships that had made the early episodes so appealing to viewers. Fact 11. The Austin Warren disappearance. Jeffrey Wood's portrayal of Austin Warren became one of the most memorable aspects of In the House during its early seasons, not necessarily because of his acting skills, but because of his distinctive appearance that viewers couldn't help but comment on throughout the show's run. Fans and critics alike noted that Wood bore a striking resemblance to Jaleel White, the actor who played the iconic nerd character Steve Urkel on Family Matters, but in a much smaller and younger package that made him look like what one viewer described as a pint-sized version of a miniature Steve Urkel. Austin Warren was Jackie's young son who, along with his sister Tiffany, formed the heart of the show's family dynamic during the first 2 seasons, when the series focused on the relationship between the divorced mother and her 2 children living in Marion's house. The character was written as the typical smart but awkward sitcom kid, complete with thick glasses, gangly coordination, and a tendency to take apart machines and gadgets, which made the resemblance to the Urkel character even more pronounced and somewhat distracting for viewers who were familiar with both shows. However, when In the House underwent its major retooling for Season 3, Austin Warren simply vanished from the series without much explanation or fanfare, leaving viewers to wonder what happened to the character they had been watching for 2 full seasons. The show's new adult-oriented direction meant that child characters like Austin no longer fit the vision that the producers had for the series, so rather than writing a proper exit storyline or addressing his absence, the writers simply had Jackie and Austin move to Nashville, while Tiffany stayed behind to finish high school. This abrupt departure left Austen Warren as one of those forgotten sitcom characters who disappeared into television limbo, remembered primarily for his unfortunate physical resemblance to another famous television nerd, and for being part of the original family dynamic that made the show's early seasons more successful than its later iterations. Fact 12. Theme song switcheroo. In the House underwent a complete musical makeover when it switched networks, giving viewers distinctly different opening experiences depending on which version of the show they were watching during its 5-year run. The theme song and opening sequence changes weren't just minor tweaks, but represented a fundamental shift in how the show presented itself to audiences, reflecting the broader changes happening behind the scenes as the series moved from one network to another and evolved its target audience. During the show's initial run on NBC for the first 2 seasons, the opening featured one style of theme music and visual presentation, but when UPN picked up the series for Season 3, they created an entirely new opening sequence with a different theme song that better matched their network's brand and the show's new adult-oriented direction. Fans of the series have consistently noted that the UPN theme song, which debuted in Season 3, was particularly memorable and well-received, with many viewers expressing preference for this version over the original NBC opening. The visual elements of the opening sequences were just as notable as the musical changes, with the first 3 seasons featuring what fans described as colorful opening sequences that were artistic and beautiful-looking. These opening credits apparently featured vibrant, eye-catching visuals that complemented the family-friendly tone of the early seasons, creating an appealing introduction that set viewers' expectations for the type of show they were about to watch. The attention to detail in these opening sequences suggests that both NBC and UPN understood the importance of first impressions and wanted their respective versions of In the House to have distinctive identities that would appeal to their target demographics. The fact that fans still remember and comment on these opening sequences decades later indicates that the visual and musical presentation was successful in creating memorable television moments, even if the shows themselves underwent significant changes in cast, tone, and storyline over the years. Fact 13. The NBC scheduling oddity. In the House created one of television's strangest scheduling situations when episodes from its final syndicated season mysteriously appeared on NBC in the middle of the night during August of 1999, occupying one of the most unusual time slots in television history. This bizarre programming decision happened 3 years after NBC had originally canceled the show due to low ratings, making it even more puzzling that the network would choose to bring back episodes from a series they had previously rejected. The final season of In the House had originally aired in first-run syndication, which meant individual television stations across the country purchased the episodes and aired them at whatever times they chose, rather than the show having a unified national broadcast schedule on a major network. This syndication approach was relatively common for shows that had been canceled by networks, but still had enough fan support to justify producing additional episodes, allowing the series to conclude its storylines without depending on network approval. However, from August 3rd through August 11th, 1999, NBC made the extraordinary decision to air some of these syndicated episodes during the 1:30 a.m. time slot that was normally occupied by a late-night talk show called Later. This meant that In the House temporarily replaced an established late-night program for exactly 1 week, giving the sitcom a brief and unexpected return to its original network home in the most obscure time slot possible. The scheduling choice was particularly strange because 1:30 in the morning is typically considered a dead zone for television viewership, when most people are either asleep or watching other forms of late-night entertainment. This timing suggests that NBC may have been fulfilling a contractual obligation or simply had empty airtime to fill, rather than making a genuine attempt to reintroduce the series to audiences, making this week-long resurrection of In the House one of the most peculiar programming decisions in television history. Fact 14. Cast exodus in Season 4. Season 4 of In the House became a masterclass in how not to manage a television cast, as the show experienced such a massive exodus of regular characters that it essentially transformed from an ensemble sitcom into a two-man show featuring only LL Cool J and Alfonso Ribeiro. By the time the fourth season began airing, the series had lost virtually all of its supporting cast members, who had helped define the show's identity during its earlier, more successful years on both NBC and UPN. The dramatic reduction in regular cast members created an unusual situation where the opening credit sequence could only feature two names as the main stars, making In the House one of the few sitcoms in television history to have such a skeletal core cast during its later seasons. This was particularly striking for viewers who remembered the show's earlier seasons, which had featured a much larger ensemble of characters including the Warren family, various clinic employees, and recurring neighborhood friends who had provided multiple storylines and comedic interactions. The cast reduction became so severe that the show's own production team acknowledged that the fourth season had more guest stars than regular cast members, which created a bizarre viewing experience where audiences were more likely to see unfamiliar faces than established characters they had been following for multiple seasons. This heavy reliance on guest appearances meant that most episodes felt more like variety shows or anthology programs than traditional sitcoms, with consistent character development and ongoing relationships. The situation left LL Cool J and Alfonso Ribeiro carrying the entire comedic and dramatic weight of each episode, with only minimal support from a handful of recurring characters like Carl and Raynell, who had never been promoted to main cast status. This approach made the show's plots feel bland and uninteresting, according to viewers and critics, who noted that the funniest characters and most engaging storylines had disappeared along with the departed cast members, leaving behind a hollow shell of what In the House had once been. Fact 15. Fresh Prince production team reunion. In the House represented NBC's calculated attempt to recreate the lightning-in-a-bottle success of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air by essentially using the exact same behind-the-scenes team and production formula that had made Will Smith's sitcom such a massive hit during the early 1990s. The network brought together the same key executive producers who had guided Fresh Prince to success, including Winifred Hervey, who had served as showrunner during that series' second and third seasons, along with David Salzman and the legendary music producer Quincy Jones, whose involvement had helped legitimize Will Smith's transition from rapper to television star. NBC's strategy was transparently simple, and based on what they believed was a foolproof formula that could be replicated with different talent. Take a popular rapper who had name recognition and music industry credibility, surround him with experienced television actors who could help carry the comedic load and provide professional stability, then place this combination in a family-friendly sitcom setting that would appeal to broad audiences across different demographics. The network executives were convinced that LL Cool J could follow the same path that Will Smith had taken from hip-hop success to television stardom, especially with the same production team guiding the process. The similarities between the two shows extended beyond just the production team, as both series featured rappers playing characters who were somewhat based on their real-life personas. Both dealt with themes of family relationships and personal growth, and both were designed to showcase their lead actors' natural charisma, while allowing more experienced performers to handle the heavy lifting of complex comedic scenes and emotional storylines. In the House even shared the same production companies and studio facilities as Fresh Prince, making it feel like a direct successor rather than an independent project. However, this attempt to capture lightning twice proved that successful television shows are much more complex than simple formulas, as the unique chemistry and timing that made Fresh Prince work couldn't be easily duplicated, even with identical behind-the-scenes personnel and similar casting approaches.